Ducks fans, are you ready? You are listening to the Ducks and Pucks podcast. This is the #1 home for Anaheim Ducks talk and analysis. Here we go.
Welcome to the show. This is your host, Mike Walters, along with my co-host, Eddie Richard. And before we get going, this is a Ducksmas edition of the podcast. So I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year as well. Hope everybody has a good holiday and a safe holiday in the next 2 weeks. But we're going to get to the Ducks now. We're going to break down everything on the show. We've got the 3 segments that we've kind of been doing lately. We'll get you caught up on all the games. The Ducks had 2 back-to-back road game scenarios that we'll talk about. Plenty of injury news and roster news. There's just a ton of stuff to cover with this team in the last week or so. So we'll get to all that. In the second segment, we'll talk about the Ducks, what's going well and what's not going so well, which obviously there's some of some consternation going on with the way the Ducks have been playing, and some of you are pretty upset, and we understand. We're going to address that. We're also going to talk about a trade the Ducks made, not really a big one, but a minor league type deal. We'll answer some good fan questions we had this week and talk about a fan poll as well. And then we'll finish the show off with all our league news as the third segment. So with that, let's get to what's going on with this team, Eddie. The Ducks, since we talked on the last show, they went on the road. They had a series of back-to-back games. They played Philly and New Jersey. They ended up losing both of these games, but all kinds of stuff going on really in this first game against Philly. A lot of themes, I guess you'll say, in this one, but the Ducks got down early, 2-0 in this game in the second period. They did get a power play goal from Raquel, as we talked about before. The power play has been hot on the last show, but they did give up a couple more goals in the third. They ended up losing this one 4-1. But a whole lot of stuff happened in this, Eddie, as far as we had the Kasha brothers dueling it out in this one. We had Delorier and Stewart fight it out in this game. Another theme we've been talking about, the Anaheim Ducks Fight Club, is in full effect. The Ducks gotten a lot of fights these last 4 games as well, and a lot of injuries too. What did you think about this game, the overall play? The Ducks had 41 shots on goal. They had opportunities, but they ended up losing this one despite getting a power play goal.
I don't think they didn't play that bad this game. I mean, it was an okay game. They came out strong in the first period. There was no goals. They seemed to have a lot more control. They made Carter Hart stand on his head. They almost caught him on a few mistakes, but he got there quick enough. It was kind of funny to see both of the brothers playing against each other and hearing it from the announcers, like, "Oh wait, what?" But unfortunately, one other brother got the win, the other one didn't, and one scored and one didn't, but one tried his ass off, so that was pretty good. But I think the main factor in this game was goaltending. Carter Hart stood in his head, and he showed why he's the reason he's the Flyers' future goaltender, like top goaltender. He just played unbelievable, and I think this was one of those wins where the Ducks gave it their all. They came out there strong, but they just didn't go their way, and you can't really be upset about this game. Like I always say, if you could play a game where you can just hold your head up high, I think this is one of the games you can do that.
Yeah, I didn't think it was a terrible game. One questionable thing I believe we talked about in the last podcast was the Ducks did bring up Larson. They sent Mahura down. I don't know why they did that. We haven't been too critical of Dallas Eakins this year, other than some of the personnel, late-minute games we've talked a little bit about. But this move kind of puzzled me because Larson came up and did not have a good game. He was a -2 in this one. A lot of the defensemen were -2, granted, but he didn't play well, and Mahura had been playing well. So I didn't like that move, and I thought that kind of hurt the team in this one. I don't know. That was just something that kind of frustrated me. I'm not really sure why they did that. But the bad thing is the Ducks had a lot of injuries in this game that happened. We saw our Kasha get hit into the boards, get shaken up. He was able to come back and finish the game. Grant got hurt in this game. A lot of this news we found out later on after the game happened. But Grant's out at least 4 to 6 weeks with a shoulder injury. We saw the kneeing play with Troy Terry, which was just ugly. And now he's out they're saying at least 10 weeks, which is unfortunate because here we're sitting at the end of December. You're looking at January, February, maybe the beginning of March. And realistically, the way the Ducks are playing right now, that's probably going to be the end of the season. I mean, we all know that they're at the bottom of the Pacific. I mean, granted, San Jose and the Kings are also on the bottom, and they're not that far out of a playoff spot, but they are at the bottom. So, to me, with Terry, I don't know if I'd even play him if he comes back in March. That's kind of my take on that situation. And then Larson also was out day-to-day as well. Like I said, did not have a really good game in this one. They brought him up. So, I think that was the bigger part. Yeah, the Ducks lost 4-1. As you said, Eddie, I didn't think the score really indicated the way it went. I mean, Philly had a late goal, obviously, to ice it with the empty netter, and they also had a third period goal in the beginning of that final frame to give them the lead. But it was 2-1 going in the third. And the Ducks, like I said, they put on 41 shots, pretty even in the faceoffs. I thought they had a chance to maybe rally and come back in this one. You even had, Delorier trying to get the team pumped up, fighting it out with Stewart, which, by the way, Delorier still leads the league in fights. He's got 8. He has another one later in this week we'll talk about as well. So a ton of stuff going on in this one, Eddie. I just really think the worst part about it was all the injuries that came out of it.
Oh, definitely. It was just unfortunate about Terry's situation. I think that call should have been a review and should have been a suspension. He stuck his knee out and he caught Terry, and Terry's out. Like he's gone, and there was no supplemental punishment for Aubé-Kubel throwing that knee, and he threw about a few late hits too. I believe he hit Larson with a late hit, and that's what contributed to Larson's his not being able to play as well. It's unfortunate. Yeah, I love the way he plays, and he's a young kid, this Aubé-Kubel with the weird name. It took me a while to actually get that name right. I had to listen to it a few times, but it's just you know what, throwing the knee out, it's always bad. That's jeopardizing someone's career. It's just like a headshot, and it seems like the league doesn't really take knees or lower body shots like that much seriously. They're so focused on the headshot, and trying to make an example of people when it comes to headshots. But a shot like this, without even looking at it or doing some supplemental things like this, it's unfortunate. Terry's out, and he was barely coming around, finding his groove, and now he's out, like you said, till March. And come March, why even play him? The team's not going to be where we want the team to be. Why not just give him a little slower game in the AHL, let him develop a little more and let him heal? But to have no supplemental penalty on this. And then you had Matt Niskanen hitting Cachet right into the boards. His numbers are right squared to him, and it was uncalled for. Yeah, he got the penalty for it, and Cachet had a little cut up above his nose. But, I mean, those kind of plays, yeah, I'm all about hard hitting. I'm all about fighting. But when you have someone's numbers clearly, you can see them squared up to your face, and you just extend your arms and slam them right into the boards. I believe intent to injure when you're that, when you do things like that, and it's nothing else. It's really unfortunate. And yeah, Ducks lost this game, but they didn't really lose this game. What hurt more is they lost a few of their players.
Yeah, and I think the other big one that they lost, and you and I talked about this, was Derek Grant. We a couple shows ago, we were like, people asked us about the power play, and they were like, how did the Ducks fix the power play? And I specifically said, put Derek Grant on the power play. What did they do? They put him on the power play. They also changed up their sequencing. They went with the 1-3-1 type power play. Grant, every time he's on the power play, he's in front of the opposing goalie creating a mess. And yeah, he got one power play goal. He didn't get a whole bunch in the last time that he's been on the special teams. But he's created situations where the Ducks have been able to score. And, they score actually 6 power play goals in 6 games, counting the next 2 total, the Devils game and the Islanders game. So he's out, obviously, in those couple ones. But the power play had been getting momentum and all this stuff, so he's out. And so now the Ducks, lose to Philly, and then they have to play New Jersey the next day. And New Jersey is going now without Taylor Hall, right? They did the trade. As you and I talked about, we didn't think the Ducks were going to get him, and that's the way it worked out. He ended up going to Arizona, and we can talk a little bit about that later in the show. But the Ducks go into this game, and you're like, okay, New Jersey is a terrible team. But we know how the Ducks have been this year. When they play terrible teams, they don't usually win. When they play quality teams, they usually do win. So, and that's what happened on these next 3 games. They lost to the Devils and the Rangers. They're both kind of teams. The Islanders on a roll, and they ended up beating the Islanders. We'll get to those games. But that's kind of been the theme for this team, is that for some reason they're just a weird team this year. They're playing up to teams and then playing down to teams. So in this game against the Devils, we had all those injuries, right? Everything got announced, and then everybody figured all this stuff out that day. So the Ducks brought up Max Jones and Isaac Lundstrom, and they had to play. Because they brought them up, that would have put the Ducks roster at 24 players, and if you know, you can only have 23. So what ended up happening is the Ducks put Terry on the IR so that they could make room for them. And Miller started in this game because we had Gibson play the day before in Philly. And things started out fine in this game. Adam Henrique scored right away. Things looked good in the first period. Ducks were doing okay. And then the second period, things started to fall apart a little bit. New Jersey gets an early goal in the second. They get a power play by former Duck Palmieri. And then they also give up a goal early in the third to another former Duck, Sami Vatanen. And this one, the Ducks did outshoot the Devils 27-20. But this game, the Ducks really didn't play that well. They dominated in the faceoff circle. But overall, Eddie, you just felt like they should have really had more in this game. I know it's a back-to-back and you're on the road and things like that. But this game, I was a little bit more disappointed in the outcome.
I think this is the worst game they played of all the games we're going to talk about. Yeah, I know that game against the Rangers that we're going to talk about in a little bit, it's probably a lot worse, but I can understand why they lost that game. This one, they just had no heart, and that's the worst thing. Or they seem like they have no heart. I don't know what their mentality was. It was a boring game for the Ducks to watch, and they just didn't play well at all. They didn't seem like they cared about the win. They didn't seem like they wanted to bounce back from a loss. They just went through the motions and just waited till till 60 minutes were up so they can just go beyond the next one. They were defeated before they came in. Yeah, they got the first goal and everything. I still didn't see that jump in their game, and something was just missing and off about them. And especially a team against New Jersey that just traded away their superstar Hart Trophy winner. Yeah, I know, granted, this is their third game without Hall because he was scratched the last 2 games before they traded him. But this is like the post game right after the trade, and I mean, you're pretty much playing a team that kind of just went back on their back and showed their belly, and you just let them walk all over you, and you made that Blackwood kid look like he's a superstar by the way they played, and that's what frustrated me the most. And yeah, I sound negative and critical, but I'm not trying to. I hold this team to a higher standard, especially when they play against a team that's way below them. Like, yeah, the Ducks are in this rebuilding mode, but New Jersey's far worse than the Ducks are, and they made New Jersey look great, and they made that goaltender look like an all-star, and that's what bothers me. It just, it's one of those games where it's like, I personally kind of regret watching. That's how bad I felt the Ducks were playing, and how just the lack of heart they had in this game.
Yeah, I agree with you, and some people out there, I know you're not watching some of the games. I know you're kind of tuning out some of the stuff, and once in a while we're a little critical on the show about what's going on. Don't take that for us not liking the team or not supporting the team. We're just trying to be real. So when we get a little upset about some of these things and whatnot, we're not going to sit here and tell you everything is flowers and rainbows, because that's not the truth. That's not what our podcast is about. We look at the team, we look at what's going on, and we try and give you a realistic approach. And in this game, like you said, they're playing a New Jersey team without Taylor Hall, and a team that's really been struggling. Not that the Ducks haven't, but this is a game, it just, like you said, it didn't seem like the Ducks had a lot of oomph in this game. I did like Max Comtois going out there and going after Severson and getting into, dropping the gloves. We saw him do that as well later this road trip. So the Ducks have been doing more physical stuff. We've talked about the quote-unquote Anaheim Ducks Fight Club. They fought in almost all of these games, except for the game against the Islanders, which we'll get to in a little bit, the racetrack game, the Islander game. But he tried to jumpstart the team. It didn't work. The Ducks did outshoot the Devils in the third period and try to rally, but they couldn't. And it just was a frustrating game for this team. you knew they were playing back-to-back. You knew they had lost to Philly already. The injuries obviously hurt this team, of course. You're not having Grant in this one. You're not having Troy Terry, so you lose 2 people. But you bring up Jones and Lundstrom. You have a couple replacements there. Not saying they're the same. I think Grant has been one of the hottest players for this team as of late. So to see him go down, that was a surprise because I initially didn't see, when I watched that game, I didn't see what had happened that I found out after the fact. So good and bad things. I mean, yes, they played a struggling team. Yes, they lost. They did outshoot them. Like I said, they did play physical, and they're coming up short in these games. I think part of it, and we'll talk about in the next segment, is the Ducks play. They've seemed to be better on the power play, but on 5-on-5, they've really been struggling, especially in this week. They've only had 2 5-on-5 goals in the 3 contests, excluding the Islander game. That game we'll get to. It's a crazy game. But that's been the thing I've noticed with this team is the 5-on-5 play has kind of dipped. Earlier in the season, this team was okay on the 5-on-5 and then terrible in the power play. Now the power play's come alive, but at even strength, they're not as good, Eddie. And that just seems to kind of been an issue in these last couple games and the other games that we'll get to.
Yeah, exactly. Like they're taking all their energy and focusing on one area, but then it depletes the energy from the other area. It's kind of like the hit or miss kind of thing. That's what gets kind of frustrating, especially with this game. This game, you have a player like PK Subban too. He's been drawing a lot of criticism because it seems like his social media and he's trying to promote himself more than he is focusing on playing hockey. And I love PK. I love everything he's done for the game. I love the fact that he donated so much money in Montreal to that children's hospital. I believe it was $10 million for that hospital. Like, this dude's a saint. And he's a hell of a player when he's on. It just seems like you've been traded twice, and now you're in your third team, and you're out there promoting your social media, promoting your YouTube thing, and I think you should just stop all that and focus more on defense in your team. And New Jersey's probably a team, an example on why I didn't want the Ducks to go out there and try to get big name players to try to a quick solution. Because look what happened with New Jersey. It kind of blew up in their face. They were in a rebuilding stage, and they wanted to, have a quick fix and try to, jumpstart their rebuilding phase and not give, their players enough time to develop. And they kind of rushed their draft picks. And Jack Hughes, too, he's a phenomenal player, but I think the pressure on him to perform. They got the guy from the KHL, Gusev, from Vegas. They were banking on him, PK. Just everything backfired in their face, and this is a good example. I know a lot of Ducks fans were upset the Ducks didn't go out and try to get big names, but this is exactly what I didn't want the Ducks to do: to grab all these big names and then have it explode in their face, and then boom, now what? You wasted all your money. You threw up some draft picks, and then you're just in the bottom of the standings, and it kind of like, okay, what now? So I think what Ducks fans need to look at, when they get upset about the Ducks and Murray not making those big moves, look at New Jersey as an example of what you don't want to do. Now, I still applaud the New Jersey GM for going out and making those aggressive moves and taking that gamble, but unfortunately for him, it kind of backfired, and now he's picking up the aftermath. And I see PK moving on to a 4th team, and I see New Jersey really going in that full rebuild mode.
Yeah, and I'm going to reserve some of my comments about like the Ducks going after big name players and all that, because we have a fan question about that, and we're going to talk about that in the next segment. But I'm with you. I mean, at least they tried in New Jersey. As far as in Anaheim, I'll hold off. There's some things I want to talk about that's going on with Murray and things I want to kind of remind some fans about in the next segment. But you're right. The things with PK Subban aren't quite working out. They did get rid of Hall. You thought maybe the Ducks, this was the time to really take advantage and beat New Jersey, but they didn't, unfortunately. They started out good, and then they kind of faded away, unfortunately. And yes, they had some injuries, but this game I really felt that was still one that they could have won, despite not having Grant, Terry, and Larson. As I said, Larson hasn't been playing that well anyways. But so the Ducks had those 2 games. They lost both. They had another series of back-to-back games. They went to New York. They played the Islanders and the Rangers. And, of course, they're playing the Islanders, right? A really good team. The team that they ended their 17-game point streak against. So you thought the Islanders are going to want some payback. We find out that Ryan Getzlaf is sick. and that he can't make it in this game. So the Ducks have to adjust. You have Sam Carrick is playing in this game. And of all the games this week, this turned out to be the most exciting game. If you decided not to watch the Ducks or whatnot, I would go back and watch this game because I was on the edge of my seat this entire game. The Islanders came out and scored first, and then the Ducks scored on the power play, as we've been talking about. Comtois. Carrick gets his first goal as a Duck, his second in the NHL, as a shorthanded goal. And then it's just off to the races. It's a back and forth. Each team gets ahead by a goal, and then the other team comes back and scores, and they just fight it out all the way till the regulation ends, and it's a 5-5 game. They go to overtime. Nothing can solve that. They got to go to a shootout, and the Ducks in the third round end up winning it. Comtois gets a goal in the second round. Bailey gets one for the Islanders in the third round, and then, of course, the shootout specialist, Silverberg, comes through with the goal, and the Ducks win this one 6-5. And basically, two kinds of shootouts. It was a shootout in regulation, and they had to go to a shootout in the extra session. I mean, this was a crazy game, the most exciting one of the week. And again, the Ducks playing a good team, Eddie, a team that probably wanted some revenge after the Ducks had blanked them at Honda Center, and they come out in this one. I mean, it was a roller coaster of a game.
Oh, yeah, I was late to the party. So I'm waking up, and I'm getting messages from my buddy Richard saying, "Are you watching this game?" You're texting me. I'm getting Twitter notifications blowing up. I'm like, what the hell is going on? Because I missed the whole game. Like, Saturday is my sacred day where I sleep in. Like, that's the only day I can have where I just sleep. So if I go out drinking the night before or whatever, I shut every alarm off, and I just sleep. So I woke up really late. And when I woke up and I saw the score, I'm like, oh man! And of course, I record all the games so I can rewatch them or watch them if I miss them. So I was just excited to see this game, and it was a fun game to watch. The Ducks had so much energy; like they seem like a brand new team, and it seems like when Getzlaf is out, everyone seems they had to step up to kind of impress Daddy Getzlaf. Like, hey, Daddy's watching now. I want to be, I want to play my best. And it was such a fun game to watch. They're going back and they're going forward. And when you think, the Islanders scoring a couple goals, like, all right, this is it. This is where the Islanders are going to take the game. Ducks are going to lose. Nope. Ducks are right back in it. It's just an overall fun. This was like probably one of the best games of the week. This was the best game of the week. Probably like one of the best games of the season. And this team came out and showed you so much heart and showed you so much play. And they even had, I think it was, I don't know if it was this game or the Rangers game where Michael Dalzotto backhanded that puck into the referee's. No, that was the next game. I'll talk about that next game. Okay, but yeah, it was just fun. You had everything you can ask for in a hockey game. You had the scoring, you had overtime, biting your lips, and then you had shootout, and you obviously get the win. So yeah, it was an early game, and it was something I had to go back and rewatch. And I was more excited because everyone was pumping me up on Twitter, talking about, oh, this game. I had people messaging me. So yeah, this was a fun game, and Ducks played their asses off, and they played great. I wish the Ducks could play like this a lot. I mean, if the Ducks would play the way they played this game against a really good Islanders team, there's no way we'd be, close to San Jose and LA. Yeah, I'm not sure if we'll be in the top of the Pacific, but we won't be as low. We wouldn't be as low as we are. But yeah, this game was fun, and if you missed this game because you're upset about those back-to-back losses, I'd definitely suggest you go back and rewatch this game because it was really fun.
Yeah, and another thing you can catch out, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but when we post the game recaps, we put in the YouTube video from the NHL that has usually the 8 to 10 minute recap of the game. So anytime you miss a game or you're like, you know what, I'm not going to watch because the Ducks aren't doing good, yada, 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 I get it. But if you, or maybe you got to work or you got other things going on, I get it. I got to work too sometimes. I can't always see them live. But make sure you check out the game recaps because in there we have the link to the YouTube video. You can go in there and watch what happened. And it's only 8 or 10 minutes of your time. You don't have to sit there and watch the replay for 2 or 3 hours depending on, fast forwarding through the commercials and the breaks and all that kind of stuff. So if you don't have time to go back and watch the whole game, but you want to see the goals, go to our recaps, and like I said, you can check it out in there. We also post all the fights, too, as well. So all these fights that happened this week, they're in the recaps as well. Thank you to hockeyfights.com. That's another good website to check out. If you go on there, they have everything. Any kind of fight in the NHL, it's posted. It's on their website. It's also on their YouTube as well. So we make sure those are all covered. So if for some reason you miss a game, whether you don't want to watch it or you got something going on in your life, which I totally understand, especially during Christmas time, check out our website. We post those up there for you. So this game,
but watch this game. But definitely watch this game.
Yes.
This Islanders and Ducks.
Yeah,
game.
If you don't want to watch the Philly New Jersey game, I get it, but watch this one. Of the games, please. This one was insane with 10 goals scored in regulation. Unfortunately, of course, Eddie, more injury news from this game. Rickard Rakell got hurt, and he was out going into the game against the New York Rangers, which the Ducks had to play the next day. The Ducks had 2 early games. They had a 10 o'clock a.m. Pacific time on Saturday, then a 9:30 game against the Rangers on Sunday, which was crazy because I work crazy hours, so I had very little sleep watching both of these games, but I knew I had to get up and post everything and get everything out there for everybody, so I sucked it up and only had a couple hours of sleep watching both of these games. But the Ducks, they won the one against the Islanders, so they're 2-3-0 in daytime games. And then, of course, they lost against the Rangers, so that now they're 2-4-0. So many daytime games. It's just crazy. And they're going to have another one on New Year's Eve in Vegas, which I will be there. So if anybody's in Vegas for New Year's Eve, let me know. We can meet up and watch the game. If not in person, we can watch it, we can meet after that game or somewhere in Vegas. But a lot of day games for the Ducks. Crazy. And that doesn't help as well. But the biggest thing we found out over this weekend is about the flu bug, Eddie. So they talked about Getzlaf being sick and not playing on Saturday. And then we find out they interview Coach Dallas Eakins, and basically he says the flu bug is going through the locker room. We find out that Getzlaf can't play in the game against New York Rangers. He also says that Silverberg's out. Like I said, Rakell got hurt in the game against the Islanders, so he's out. The Ducks are just decimated basically going in this Ranger game. I tweeted it out before that they didn't even have enough forwards to play in this game. They had 11 forwards. And I mentioned, I guess Holzer's going to have to play offense. And lo and behold, you can all sit there and grin and roll your eyes. Holzer had to play offense, right? And then Larson came in on defense because the Ducks barely had enough players to fill the team. That was it. They used everybody that they could in this game in New York. It was crazy. So they started out basically without, you look at it, without 2 offensive lines. A lot of their top scorers and whatnot. And Dallas Eakins didn't say how many people have the flu, but we know it's Getzlaf, we know it's Silverberg. We're sure there's more because they said it was going through the locker room. So they go into this game against the Rangers, and I had very, very low expectation. I know that's probably being a bad fan, but granted, the lineup they had, the second of back-to-backs, these crazy early daytime starts and everything, I did not have a lot of expectation for this team. And they ended up getting smoked in this game. I mean, that's what happened. I mean, it is what it is. The Rangers came out and got a couple goals early. Sam Steele did get one to get the Ducks kind of back in it. It was 2-1. Kreider got a goal before the first period was over, and they were up 3-1. It looked like the Ducks might have come back in the second. Fowler had a shot that barely missed the net. Just kind of rolled wide. It might have made the game 3-2. But again, Kreider scored. And then, they were just off to the races. And New York ended up winning this game. I guess the bigger thing in this game is all the fighting that went on and all the anger and frustration in the Ducks, which, again, like I said, if you're not watching the games because of the score, there's plenty of entertainment on the ice. And this one, like we said, the Ducks lost. They weren't really ever in this game. Maybe when it was 2-1, but after that, they didn't come back in this. But you had a whole bunch of stuff going on in this one. You had Lemieux in this game going after Goodbranson, and then he didn't want to fight because he's basically a wuss. I don't want to say any other terms because I might get booted off the show, and I'll reference why
off your own show.
Yeah, I might get booted off my own show because the way you say things, and you'll understand that comment later when we talk about league news because someone else got in trouble for his podcast comments. But anyways, for lack of a better term, Lemieux's a wuss and skates away. Then he ends up punching Carter Rowney at the end of the second period. He gets a 10-minute misconduct because of that. You had Comtois again mixing up, going after Lindstrom. You had Delorier going after Haley in a good fight. All kinds of stuff going on in this game. The Ducks, also Goodbranson got 10-game booted out, so the Ducks kind of had to play. They kind of went back to like 11 forwards and 7 defensemen instead. I mean, I don't know, man. Watching this team this last week, yeah, they lost 3 out of 4 of the games, but I mean, the only way I can describe this team, Eddie, is it's like a train wreck. They're gonna crash. You don't want to see how the crash happens, but then you kind of do want to watch it because you want to know how it gets to that point. And that's what happened in this game. It was like you knew it was going to be ugly, but it was still entertaining to watch just because at least the Ducks had fight in them. Yeah, they got outshot 41-20. Yeah, they got outscored 5-1. They weren't going to win this game. But just to see Goodbranson giving it to people, Comtois been stepping up. The physicality, Manson was about to rip Lemieux's head off at the end of the second period, which was awesome to see. Of course, the refs don't want players to fight anymore sometimes, so there's that whole issue too as well. What did you think about this game? I mean, yeah, the Ducks were out of it, but I mean, there was just a whole lot of stuff going on in this game.
They had a lot of heart and they had a lot of fight in them, which I liked. And yeah, officially, you had a few players that were out that couldn't play because they were ill. But, you know, I guarantee there's a few other players that were playing this game that weren't 100%, that were feeling that flu bug. I'm feeling it right now. I feel like complete crap. So I can imagine how a few of those other players that did have to play because they didn't have a choice. Like, you're stuck and you have your top players out with the flu. You're not going to have, you know, a rookie player go sit out and have your top player play. No, that's not how it works. You're still the boot. You're going to suck it up and play. So I'm pretty sure there was a few players not 100%. You had Holzer not playing on a line he wasn't familiar with. Granted, he only took a few shifts before they went back to 11 forwards and 7D. But that still throws off the chemistry because you have that line. You have someone double shifting. You have other players having to step up when they don't have to, and then them still trying to hit the, you know, to kind of hit back because the Rangers came out physical, they came out strong, they took advantage of the Ducks playing in 4 games in 6 days, which is crazy. I can't believe the league actually would schedule things like that. That's just insane. It's not fair to the Ducks, in my opinion. But I think the Ducks held their own. Yeah, they did lose 5-1. But, you know, they still stood in the game, and they didn't back down from the Rangers at all. You had, you know, Lemieux over there, little rat, throwing cheap shots, but not wanting to fight some people, then hitting some people in the face. Like, bro, if you're going to run out and play that game, it doesn't matter. You can't pick and choose who you're going to fight. Like, be a man. If you're going to play that style of hockey, you know, if you're trying to live up to your dad's, you know, his little piece of crap career, then go ahead and drop the gloves. If you lose, who cares? At least you were willing to drop the gloves. But it just showed a lack of character on your part by trying to pick fights with certain players, but not dropping the gloves when it came down to other players. And then right when the teachers come on the playground to kind of break you guys up, then you throw a punch in the face. Like, come on, like that is, man. You're just not going to have a good career doing that, and you're going to piss off one of these other players, and they're going to knock you out, and you rightfully deserve it. But I really think the Ducks held their own, especially they had, it was 58 hits in this game. You had 30 for the Ducks and 28 for the Rangers. A depleted team like the Ducks missing their players, and a few of the players, I guarantee that were sick too. And then playing these 4 games in 6 days, that's amazing. And I applaud the Ducks, and I'm glad they showed the fight they had and all the heart they had in this game. And now I want to talk about that play Dalzotto did. That backhand that inadvertently went into the referee's pocket, and then no one knew where it was.
Hilarious.
I've never seen it. That was funny. I'm like, wait a minute. And I'm watching the game now. I'm like, wait, where's the puck? Did it go out? And everyone's just kind of confused, and then a few players ran up to the referee. I was like, wait, is he going to get punched or something? Like, what happened? And it ended up in his pocket. That's one of those 1 in a million plays. And man, I really hope Dalzotto kept that puck and just framed it. Like, this puck just, like, I think the puck was so afraid to be in that physicality of a game. It wasn't used to seeing that physicalness. And it just wanted to go hide in the referee's pocket or something. But I don't know. Yeah, some people that didn't watch the game probably like, oh, the Ducks suck. I read a few comments on social media pages where one fan was talking crap about the Ducks, saying they suck, and even though he didn't watch the game, something needs to change. I'm like, dude, do you not know what was going on? He called out Getzlaf being a bad captain, even though Getzlaf didn't play the last couple of games. It's like, all right, I get you're frustrated. Yeah, I get it too. We're fans, and like Mike pointed out, yeah, sometimes we are overly critical. But yeah, as much as I want to talk good about the Ducks, I can't, because I want to just throw out the exact, how they're playing. I'm not going to sit there and say that they're having a good game when they're not. I'm not going to praise them when they don't deserve to be praised. This 5-1 loss, yeah, a lot of people that probably didn't watch the game were talking the most crap. But if you really sat here and watched this whole game, they didn't play bad and they had fight. Yeah, they were up against all the odds, and it was going to be one of those games where 9 times out of 10 they're going to lose. Unfortunately, they lost, but they still had a lot of fight and a lot of heart, and I can respect that. And like I said, we can hold our heads up high for those of us that watched this game about this game.
Yeah, I agree 100%, and it kind of leads into our next segment, so I'll just real quickly tell you, hey, check out onthevolley.com. They have our Ducks gear that's been redone. You can also go to bit.ly/DucksNPucks, or DNP gear, to check out our hats and shirts and sweatshirts. If you put in DNP December, you get 25% off. So with that, we'll shift now basically into the middle part where we talk about the team and analysis and fan questions and all that, and picking up where Eddie talked about as far as the fans and what's going on with this team. I thought it was funny, Eddie, at the end of the Ranger game, Eric Stevens even tweeted out, he's like, oh, there's all this quote-unquote smoke being thrown at the team, when they're losing, but what happened when they won and beat the Islanders 6-5? And I just crack up at that, because, I mean, it's the social media aspect of this. I really laugh. It's like the Ducks win and everybody's pumped up or kind of like, oh, okay, cool. Then they lose and like the world ends. And this game, I mean, you didn't expect them to win. I mean, come on. They had nobody that could go in this game. They had, let's count all the people out. Getzlaf, Terry, Grant, Richie, who's been out for a while, Raquel, Silverberg. All their top scorers were pretty much out of this game. I mean, they didn't have anybody in there that could score other than really Henrique. That was your only top scorer in this game, out of the forwards. You had 4 of the top 5 out because of that. I just thought that was kind of funny that he pointed that out. And the Ducks even had to call up Sprong in this game to at least get 11 forwards, which is crazy. And just give Eric Stevens a little shout out. I appreciate him. He mentioned us when we talked about him coming up. So thank Eric for that. And I like how Eric keeps it real, and that's what we try to do on this show, and try to get him maybe on.
Thank you, Eric.
Yeah, and we'll try to maybe get him on the show again. We had him last year. We'll see if he'll have some time to come back on. But I guess that's the one thing to talk about is just Ducks social media. Specifically, I guess for me is Ducks Twitter. What's going on with this team and how things are going on. And when the team wins, I usually shut down social media, do the recap, try and get things out and do all that stuff. But when they lose, Eddie, I just really shut it down. I can't, I can't keep track of everything going on normally when they win. But when they lose, I really I don't want to see anything. I just turn it off. So I just thought that was a funny comment by Eric there. What do you think about the social media aspect of the fan base?
It gets frustrating. It's annoying. You have fans thinking that they absolutely know everything about the game when the Ducks win, and they know everything about the game when the Ducks lose. No one knows anything about everything, including us. We do a lot of research, and all because you see a score 5-1, but you don't watch the game, and then you throw your input and your frustration. I get it. You're frustrated. You want to vent. But come on, like, have some more common sense and just have some, watch the game at least. Like, don't sit there and comment about the game and how the Ducks suck, but then you're going to put in the same thing that you haven't watched the game, or you're going to call out the captain when he wasn't even playing, or other things I read, like, oh, they're partying too hard. Like, where the hell are you getting this information from? Because please, if you have a source that we don't know about, please contact us so I can get in touch with that source. Like, I get you're frustrated, but you just throwing out there and making yourself look dumb, that's just ignorant to me. You're just telling other fan bases too, like, oh, you're giving them fuel to shoot back at us. Like, oh, these fans aren't true fans. And a lot of Ducks fans like to call out LA fans. And I've done it too, because I've never seen so many LA fans until they were in the Stanley Cup playoffs, and then they all pop up out of nowhere. And it just, that gets frustrating. Like, if you can't support the team when they're low and when they're rebuilding or they're in their downfall, then you can't really call yourself a true fan. Like, yeah, you could be a fan of the game, you could be a fan of the team, but if you're gonna sit there and bash the team constantly, like just some of the, I'm not saying like some of you talking about how some Ducks need to change, or Murray needs to go, or Ducks need to do something. Yeah, I get that aspect, but for some of you, you just constantly bash the team. Like, if you hate the Ducks so much, then find another team to root for. It just, I hate to sound like a dick, but like some of the comments and some of the things I read, like that you tweet to the Ducks personal page, like, oh, kill yourself, you guys suck, and oh, you guys are worthless, you're pathetic, you're ruining my holiday. Like, come on, you guys are crossing the line, and it's just, I can understand how Eric kept it real and he called you guys out, because it's kind of unfortunate and sad what you guys have to, what you guys post out. And I know, Mike, you usually shut you down your social media, and I'm glad you do, because some of the comments and you tag DucksNPucks too, like it's our fault.
Right.
Comments like, oh, you said the Ducks should have won this game. You guys are losing. It's like, we can't control anything. All we do is cover the Ducks and talk about it. Like, I think the closest I ever came to playing on the Ducks was the Holiday Skate a couple of years ago. I mean, I touched a puck and shot it around the boards too in the corner. That's the closest I ever gotten playing on the Ducks ice. But I don't know. I think you just got to relax. And if the game's getting you frustrated that much to the point where you're crossing that line, maybe it's something else going on in your life, and you should kind of just, kind of relax. It's not that big of a deal. Yeah, I get it. I'm a fan. I'm probably one of the biggest hockey fans ever. Hockey is life to me. Hockey is the same category as my family, as my religion. Hockey is my religion, if I put it that way. But I'm not going to let that, just tear me down, where I'm going to say, you're ruining my life, or ruining Christmas, or ruining whatever, and seriously sit there and just attack and bash the team.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of frustration going on, and that's why I was kind of cracking up when that game ended and Eric Stevens tweeted that out. I was like, oh, he's going to go there. I'm like, all right, cool. And I followed up with my comment on there, too. You can go back and look and see what I said, This is nothing new, but that's the way it is. I mean, this team, as Eddie's talking about, it's all about the process this year. And I know you're probably sitting there and you're rolling your eyes going, okay, yeah, it's all about the process, blah, 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 blah. Well, it is. I mean, they're rebuilding. It is what it is. The Ducks had so many years where they were making the playoffs, and then it was just a question of how far are we going to go in the playoffs. Then last year was the circus with Randy Carlyle and what was going to happen with him. We all knew he was going to get booted. It was a question of when and how, pretty much, and that happened. So then this year, you come in and you look at the team, and they did start out pretty good for the first month. So then there was a little bit of, oh, well, maybe this team, could be okay, and maybe they could make the playoffs, at a lower seed and whatnot. We both even talked about that, and we said, hey, they're doing okay in the beginning. They got a lot of young guys, and they're pushing and doing things, and then they fell apart and things didn't work out, and now they've got injuries, and now they got the flu bug going on in the locker room and things like that. But I'm still going to be here and cover this team. I mean, I even made my New Year's plans around this team. I'm going to Vegas to watch them. I mean, that's how much of a Ducks fan I am, and win, lose, or shine, I watch them anyway. And like I said, they may be a train wreck, waiting to happen on the ice, but I want to see how it's going to happen and unfold. And in these games this week, yeah, the New Jersey one was disappointing, but the other 3 out of 4 games were still pretty entertaining to watch. I mean, it wasn't that bad. You're still getting some fights going on. Like I said, the Ducks are getting power play goals. They had 6 power play goals in 6 games leading up to the New York Ranger game, which they did not have one. So they turned that on. The thing for me is it seems like the 5-on-5 play has kind of gone down a little bit, not counting the Islander game. The other 3 games, they only had 2 goals 5-on-5. So that's kind of been the issue. But for me, we've kind of touched on it before, the Ducks are getting into a lot of fights, and not just meaningless fights. If you don't understand the sport of hockey, they're not out there just to fight people. It's either to charge the team up to try to get them to rally when they're down, or it's because someone's taking a liberty at someone and they want to put them in their place, which is what the sport, that's why they do what they do. So, for me, that's a lot of why I watch what's going on. to see, and there's been a lot of funny things, like you talked about the puck in the ref's pants. I mean, who knew that NHL refs had pockets, right? You learn. I mean, if you watch the New York Ranger game and Duck game, you learn that, right? I mean, I know it's funny, but I mean, you know, I don't know. I never asked the ref, do you have pockets? I mean, I don't know, right? So that was pretty hilarious. And then you also had, when one of the fights went on, you had that funny look on that Rangers fan. I don't know what that guy was doing, but when he saw Comtois and them going at it, you'd think that guy had never seen a fight because he was there on the glass, and to see his expression was hilarious. Like, yeah, man, this is some grown men going at it. It's like it's a legit sport, dude. So I mean,
I love that guy.
I mean, there's some funny stuff going on when you watch these games. So. You can be frustrated and stuff, and honestly, I feel bad for the Ducks social media people, because I'll look at when they lose, and I'll look at the responses, especially on Twitter and Facebook, and I'm just like, oh my God, dude, like, that's got to be tough, because like Eddie said, we get the responses too, obviously not at the magnitude of the Ducks, because we're not the official social media covering the team, of course, but you see those responses, I'm like, Jesus, people, like, it's okay. Like, it's 82 game season. We're not going to be 82-0-0. Like, it's okay, you know. But like I said, and we said it on the last show, you still got to watch these games. That they are entertaining. The Ducks are playing physical. They are standing up for each other. Yeah, they haven't had some of the best games. This team is completely depleted right now. Thank God they have this holiday break. They don't play Vegas till this coming Friday, and hopefully they can get Getzlaf and Silverberg back. And obviously there's other players on there that are sick as well that we don't know about. And like Eddie said, they had to have put these players out there. I'm sure Larson wasn't even 100% either, because he was day-to-day. He had to play because Holzer had to play on offense, which I know is like, oh my God, Holzer playing offense? Are you killing me? But I mean, what are you going to do? You don't have enough players. So I mean, that's what happened in that New York game. But to me, the biggest thing is I just think they've gotten away from the 5-on-5 play. They focus so much, like you said, Eddie, on the power play, and they started doing that right. They just can't focus on everything, it seems. And I'm not trying to make excuses, but like I said, you have all these players hurt, and the ones that are scoring goals and whatnot, and people that are sick. I mean, what do you expect? So going into this break, I just hope that they can get healthy with some of the guys. They're going to have some big games coming up. They're going to play Vegas twice, at home on Friday. They're going to play them in Las Vegas. Like I said, I'll be there. They're going to play Philly again. A lot of big games coming up, Eddie. I don't know what you think about how they've been playing lately, even with all the injuries and illness going on. But what are you seeing out there with this team in the last 4 games on this road trip?
Well, just overall too, I think the Ducks are playing way better this season than they are last season. That's all you can ask, because last season was an atrocity. It was terrible to watch. It was to the point where I was like, just it felt like a chore to watch the game. Like, I love doing what I do for Ducks and Pucks. So you guys follow my social media. I express it all the time because I like to throw that positivity out there, because I'm a negative person. So when I can have something positive, I like to throw it out there to hopefully motivate others. But last season was just bad to watch, and a few games there was actually, I felt like it was a waste of time to watch. But this season, it's like the games I do watch, or I watch all of them, but the games I do that I cover and stuff, even the ones that are bad losses, is just I still see little things here and there that they're playing better. It's like, okay, yeah, they're not just reverting back to their old dump and chase and just going through the routines at games. Like, they're actually trying to do something different. If they're in a bad game, a bad spot, you'll see them shoot a little bit more. I know that one game, in Philadelphia, they had some issues. A timeout was called. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. It was New Jersey. They're trying to get back into the game. They pulled their goalie. They had a power play. They were playing like crap. A timeout was called. And then you saw a whole different 180. A new Ducks team that were just having someone in front of that net, blasting that puck and getting those opportunities. So, I mean, that's all I can ask for. Like, last season was bad, and I don't expect this season for the Ducks to just turn around and go to the number 1 in the Pacific. No, if you don't want to hear the word, I'll say it. It's a rebuild year. And I'm glad that the Ducks have all this such a great pipeline and young talent where they can have them develop well and not rush them. They can develop over the Duck system and get used to it. It takes time. You're going to keep hearing that because you can't expect anyone to just be adapted to something and all of a sudden just change. It's impossible. Especially, I think, like, the biggest fear in humans is change, and they're humans as well. So I like what I've been seeing so far. I definitely like the fight against the Rangers when everyone had them losing. They even knew they were losing. They weren't 100% healthy, but they still battled it out, and they were still in there. All I want to ask for this Christmas is to at least get a couple of wins, one win at home, and definitely win that game on Tuesday on New Year's Eve when they play in Vegas, especially because you're going to be there, Mike.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. I've been there before, and the Vegas fans are cray-cray. They are. So, and don't worry, I'll be wearing my Duck stuff. I don't care. They can bring it all they want. You know what I mean? I've got some friends in Vegas, so if anything gets crazy, I'll be fine. Some of you out there will know what I'm talking about. I won't elaborate. But anyways, as far as you're talking about the Ducks winning and stuff, yeah, a big problem they've had is in the last 22 games, they have not won 2 games in a row. That's been the thing that's been tough with them, is that they've had a hard time putting together a string of wins. And this team, you feel like if they got some of these guys back and they won just a couple games, yeah, they're at the bottom of the Pacific, but they're not that far out of it. And I'm not saying that because, they're going to be a playoff team and they're going to make it and all this stuff. But I'm just pointing out that they're not like so far out of it that like, oh my God, they're never going to make it, right? I mean, you're looking at it right now and you're looking at the Western Conference and who's in and who's out. You've got the Flames there at the bottom when we're recording this, as far as the wild card spot at 43 points, and the Ducks are at 34, which is it's 9 points. I mean, it's not crazy, right? I mean, it's not good, of course not, but they're not so bad. I mean, yes, they're having issues, and players are out, and players are sick, and things like that. So the thing is, they're still fighting through it. They're still entertaining. I think the big thing, and we'll kind of shift a little bit of gears here, I guess, or it kind of ties into it, is we've got some really good fan questions. But, it's the end of December. The Ducks in the past have turned it on around this time. January is going to come up, and then, of course, the trade deadline is going to come up. So we had one fan, LA Nick, asked a question about, do you think Bob Murray's going to make any moves this year? Or is he just going to lay low, let everything unfold, and kind of focus on the expansion draft? I really think the answer is all of the above. I think he may try to make some moves, but I don't think he's going to do anything big. That's what Eddie and I kind of talked about before this show when we were preparing and whatnot. I don't see him doing anything like that. I think he will maybe try to lay low. He did try to make some bigger moves in the beginning of the season. You remember he tried to get Shattenkirk. It didn't work out and things like that. But right now, I don't know if that he will. Of course, the expansion draft is another thing that you have to worry about. He might try to get a couple little players here and there and make some moves. I just don't see him doing anything big, Eddie. I mean, I think the Ducks are sellers, and I know that the trade deadline's a little bit away, but it's still kind of over the horizon. I mean, January is almost around the corner. It's crazy. It's almost 2020. So to answer your question, Nick, in my perspective, I think he'll do some stuff, some minor stuff. But that's really about it, Eddie. I don't know what your take is on it. I just don't see Murray doing anything extravagant, which he hasn't lately with trade deadlines.
No, and you're right. And I can't see him doing anything big. I don't expect him to go after big fish. And I wouldn't want him to. Like, the Ducks are still establishing their identity and establishing the way they're going to be playing in the future. And they have a lot of good assets. And I wouldn't want them to try to just throw out some of their draft picks just for a temporary solution, just to chalk up a few more wins. I can't see, how that would be, just to make the fans happy just for a few games here and there. No, you shouldn't waste the talent you're going to get. Obviously, we're going to be in the bottom of the standings. We can only hope that we're above the Kings. And now I'm going to say above the Sharks because they're literally tanking. No pun intended, but they're toward the bottom. California teams are bad, and I feel bad for the Sharks because they do have a pretty talented roster, and they can't score goals and they can't prevent them from going in. But yeah, to answer that question, no, I expect them to make certain moves here and there. Sprong's call up, it was good. Someone pointed out he was a -3. Okay, I get it. In that game, I wouldn't be surprised, but I saw a different player in him. He was playing more of a two-way game. He was trying to get after that puck when he didn't have it. He was trying to be where the puck was going to be when he didn't have it. He wasn't just focused on that offense. So I'm glad to see him kind of change up his game a little bit from last season. I'm still not sold if the Ducks are going to have him in his future plans, but I think he could be traded off for some assets. But yeah, as far as that question goes, don't be expecting them to go after the Chris Kreiders or whoever the big names out there that are going to be available deadline. It's going to be a slow deadline. Maybe future considerations, my favorite player, get thrown around. Or maybe we just trade out some guys that we don't see in our future, some of our younger guys like the Larsons that we've talked about before, that can bring in some kind of draft pick. And I think the main objective now is not to lose anyone significant to the expansion draft, because that's really important. You don't want to be that team that get just, to lose someone for nothing, or lose someone for not getting anything in return. And I think Murray did a good job with the expansion draft against Vegas, not really giving up too much. And Shea Theodore, unfortunately, but I mean, just have to go from there and trust him. I'm getting kind of old with this kind of this stand put mentality, and he doesn't like to gamble and bargain Bob, trying to find, like I always say, you're trying to shop for a Macy's type of clothing at a 99-cent store. It's not going to work. There's a couple articles, I think The Athletic, Eric Stevens had one, and Elliot Tiford, about Murray said it was hard for him to watch the team, do what it's doing but not act immediately. Like, bro, come on. We've been watching you for all these years. If you acting immediate means bringing in some mediocre talent and expecting it to pan out, like, we don't expect that much. And I think, and I'll throw this out there, and I wanted to talk about this too, and I thought about this, but I think after the Ducks established the system they have with the coach, and after the expansion draft, I think it's time for a new general manager, and I think someone that can kind of help us, into the future, and to make a little bit of a gamble sometimes, not be like New Jersey and go all out, but at least try to do something different to make the Ducks better, and not trying to, like I said, shop at the 99-cent store for Macy's time players.
Yeah, I mean, that's been one of the big criticisms of Murray over the years, as you're talking about, Eddie, is not doing anything big. I mean, obviously, Kessler was one of the big ones that he did, and then Henrique was some of the good things that he had done over the last couple of years. But in general, you look at most of the things, he hasn't gone big. And you look at the Ducks situation right now, according to Cap Friendly, they have about $3.8 million in cap space, but they also have $10 million in long-term injury reserve as well. So, I mean, there's stuff there that they can do and use. They haven't really tried to dig for that this season. I know there's that concern about Perry because they're paying him 2.6 this year and then 6.6 next year. But don't forget, Eves is done next year, and the Ducks are going to get 3.1 back. So it's almost a wash there. They're still going to have money. Unless miraculously Kessler comes back next season. I don't know if he is. I know he's doing that podcast with Bieksa now. It's pretty good stuff. If you haven't heard it, I would go listen to it. I highly recommend it. Those two are hilarious. But if Kessler doesn't come back next year, the Ducks are still going to have plenty in cap space. So, I mean, there's room there to do something. But, yeah, I don't think they're going to do it. And I don't know. I just think that Murray's conservative. The Samuels are conservative. I just don't see them putting a lot of money out there to try and do something big. And like we talked about the expansion draft, which is another fan question we had, Katrina asked about that, and she talks about Vegas and now Seattle, and she says, do you think it creates tension, amongst the different teams? Also, teammates are trying to stay protected on a team and whatnot, because there's all the different rules, how many games you play, how many years you've got in the league and whatnot. And she also finishes off with if she's reading too much into it. And no, I mean, I don't think you are reading too much into it. I think the expansion draft does mess with all the GMs, and it does mess a little bit with some of the players' minds, because some people are getting exposed. You have other people that know they're not, and then they're fine. And honestly, I don't like the expansion draft the way it is now. Eddie and I talked about this before the show. I don't like all the deals that are going on. Honestly, I think it's ridiculous, because you had a team like Vegas that came in and nearly won the Stanley Cup right away. And I don't think that that's the way the expansion draft should be handled. I understand you're trying to get in a new team. You want to get that fan base going. You don't want a team that's going to come in and be in last place. But I'm just not a fan of all these deals and I'll trade you this guy so you don't draft this guy and pick this guy and do this and that. I'm not a fan of that. That wasn't how it was when the Ducks in Florida came back in the league in '93, and it wasn't like that until the recent years. So I'm not a fan overall, but I do think it creates some tension amongst the GM and the players, especially, if you're on a team and you're not protected, then, you don't know what's going to happen until that's over. So it does create some kind of issue there. And I think it distracts the GMs too a little bit, Eddie. I'm a little bit critical of Murray as well. Like you are, not going out and getting these certain players. And like I said, there is money to be had per cap friendly. But it's a tough situation. And I think the Ducks are just going to play conservative till the rest of the season, Eddie.
Yeah, I 100% agree. With the whole expansion draft, I'm still in that question. I don't know. Because I do like how the old school mentality was, and you just you go and it's so simple, but I do like the whole sidebar thing going on. I like the transactions. I like to talk about it. I like to write about it. But then again, it does play with the GM's mind. It does play with the player's mind. You're playing on a team, and if you start getting a little heat streak, it might go into your mind like, oh wait, I love playing here though. Like I don't want to be that player that's not protected because I don't have any protection in my trade clause. Maybe I should tone it down, or I don't know. I doubt players think like that, but maybe I'm reading way too much into it. But I'm kind of a hit or miss on it. And to answer that question about the expansion draft, like I don't know if I like the new way. There's parts of it I like, parts of it I don't like. But I do like the fact how Vegas came in and after they had that tragedy and they were competitive and they almost won the cup. That was a cool storyline, and I like storylines. But I guess I can't really disagree with Mike. I can't agree with him because I really don't know how I feel about that. And I just, come this expansion draft, I know Seattle's getting their players. I don't know if I read this right or not, but it seems like there was talks how they're going to try to extend it for next season if they're not ready for this season. I don't know. I haven't really heard anything of that valid. So we're gonna have to wait and see, but it kind of seems that the Seattle team will be good to go coming next season. They should be naming their team sometime in January, if that's what I was heard. I want to go back to. I'm sorry, I apologize. I was wrong on something I said about that pocket, the puck in the ref's pocket. It actually happened in the New York Islanders game, at the Rangers game. So I apologize. So I'm correcting it now, so I have to correct the next game, and we'll go and show that clip too on DucksNPucks.
Yeah, no worries. They're in New York for both days, so you could get confused easily with those two games. One more fan question before we get to the league news. We had Patrick Monahan asked about Miller returning next season. Will he be, looking for, or will the Ducks be looking for a new backup goalie? I really think on this situation, obviously it's too early, but I think it's really up to Miller. He's 39. If he wants to retire, he could. If he wants to come back, he can do that as well. I could see him coming back for another season, signing another contract, staying local and whatnot. But if he decides not to, Eddie, I wouldn't be surprised. He might want to just hang it up and retire.
Yeah, I think it's going to be up to him. I can't see the Ducks trying to go out and get another backup goalie and spend that money on that. Backup goalies are really important. Some people don't think, some people forget about that. The Toronto Maple Leafs got their first win recently with a backup goalie in net. So that was you're over here in almost Christmas and you only got wins from your starting goalie, Freddie Anderson. You barely get your first win with your backup goalie, and you can't sustain that. And you can't put that much pressure on your starter. So you have to have a quality backup goalie, and I don't see Miller's game declining that much where he won't be able to sign another deal with the Ducks. And I definitely can't see him, signing somewhere other than California. Even Northern California might be, a little bit of a stretch. I doubt he wants to go play on another crappy team when he can just play closer to home with his family. I think that's at his age and his accomplishments he has thus far. That's the most important to him. I'm not sure how he's going to feel come trade deadline. I think that's up to our GM to ask him if he would like to continue with the team or try to trade him to a contender to get that, that one more go around. But I think in Miller's case, he signed locally for a reason. He wants to spend that time with his family. If he doesn't sign come next season, I'd say give Stolars a chance and try to sign him and fill a backup role. He's doing a great job in San Diego down there. He's played in the NHL before. I think, why not give him a chance, Especially, I don't think next year that we're going to be a Stanley Cup contending team. We're definitely not going to be near the bottom how we are right now, but we're not going to be damn near the top. So I wouldn't mind seeing Stolarz and giving him that chance at cracking a backup line, that backup role come next training camp if Miller doesn't want to sign or the Ducks choose not to. But I think right now, if the Ducks don't re-sign Miller and if he wants to come back, it's going to be their mistake. And the only other team I can see Miller re-signing to if he doesn't sign with the Ducks is probably Los Angeles. It's closer to home and still in California. He wants to be close to his family, and that's number one priority to him.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, too. His wife does a lot of stuff in L.A. for her career. So if he didn't, he'd go over there. Not that we would be happy. Of course, you're probably all cringing with us talking about the Kings like that. But, I mean, hey, you got to do what's best for you. So I think he'll stay at least to the end of the season. Then he'll probably take some time to figure out what he wants to do from there. So the only other some questions we did get was really about the trade that happened involving one of the Ducks prospects, Groulx. A lot of people kind of freaked out about that. He was traded at the junior level to the Wildcats of the QMJHL for a bunch of draft picks, 3 draft picks. So he got moved from Halifax over there. Some people were freaking out because they thought that maybe he was traded from the team as far as the Ducks organization and whether or not they still had his rights or whatnot. I remember answering some questions on social media about it, but no, that's not the case. This isn't like an AHL deal. This is a junior level deal. The Ducks still own his rights, so he's just going to another team. Don't get freaked out about it. It's just a super minor trade, I guess you can say, but he's been doing pretty good. So the Ducks do have people in the pipeline to come up, Eddie, and that's the only move I guess you can say the Ducks did do in the last couple weeks in terms of trades and whatnot.
Oh yeah, and he was traded from the Halifax Mooseheads, where he captained the team, to the Wildcats for a 2021 first round pick, a 2020 second round pick, and a 2022 second round pick. So obviously he has a lot of value down in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, and he's going to help the Wildcats moving forward. It has nothing to do with the Ducks. It's just simply a junior hockey transition, but just the amount that that they gave up to get him on the team, it just shows how much value he has and how much potential he has to be a great NHL player. And I look forward to seeing him play when he's ready and to start bringing that value to the Ducks.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that, we'll go to the last segment. We'll talk about some league news and some things that Eddie's going to cover. Before we go to that, make sure you check out patreon.com/DucksNPucks. On there, we give away game tickets and a $200 gift card from Cool Hockey each month. So check it out. We gave away tickets to the game this Friday at home against Vegas. So if you sign up for that and donate just $1 a month, then you can have a chance to win all that. Almost everybody wins throughout the year. I try to spread out the prizes so that anybody that signs up, you'll pretty much guaranteed to either get a gift card or tickets to a game or both, plus some gear thrown in there as well. So check it out, patreon.com/DucksNPucks. So with that, let's do the last segment, Eddie. Let's cover some of the league news and wrap up the show before the holiday break.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm going to start off with the Florida Panthers. I think this is worth mentioning. Noel Acciari scored 2 consecutive hat tricks. One was his first hat trick, his first career hat trick, in a 6-1 win over Ottawa. And then the next time he played, he scored another hat trick, which the third goal came on a penalty shot in a 7-4 win against Dallas. So he played in Boston. He's now in Florida. So it's good to see something like that. Yeah, it's his first career hat trick, and then he gets another one. So his stick is hot. He's lighting it up. I wish him nothing but the best. Let's move on to New York. New York Rangers, one of their players, Anderson, has requested a trade per Darren Dreger. This 5'11", 190-pound center was drafted 7th overall in the 2007 NHL draft by the Rangers. After his trade, he was suspended from the team by not returning to Wolfpack of the AHL, which that's their AHL affiliate, and he was sent down and he didn't report to the team. So He's suspended. The trade deadline or the trade freeze, holiday freeze, is up on the 27th, so I expect him to be traded by then. I'm not sure how much value he's going to have on him. He only has 1 assist in the 17 games he's played this season, and he's only had 39 points, 15 goals, and 24 assists in 74 AHL games. That seems decent, but not too great. He's played 66 NHL games and only has 9 points, 3 goals, and 6 assists. For a former 7th round overall pick, that's kind of bad. If you guys... he was the captain of the Swedish junior championship team, or at the World Juniors. He was Team Sweden's captain. He was infamous for throwing his silver medal into the crowd. I get it. He's a young kid. He made a mistake, and we all moved on from that. And yeah, he probably doesn't like participation trophies. I guess that's what the silver is. But you're representing your country, and you're captain, you're representing your team. You should be held to a higher standard. And I personally think you shouldn't have acted like that. And no, I do not want this player on the Ducks. I'm just reading the league news. I don't think the Ducks should trade for this guy. His attitude from that World Junior game, and then now he's 21, and he thinks he has some authority to request a trade. I don't see. I'm more, I guess, an old school mentality, even though I'm not that old. I don't think these young kids can come in and not prove themselves and then just want to demand a trade when they're not earning their ice time. So we're going to keep an eye on that. I expect him to be traded before the trade deadline, maybe within January, to another team that wants to take a chance on a former 7th overall player, but I think he's done with New York. Let's move on to the Islanders. Joe Ho-Sang, we've talked about before. He requested a trade out of the Islanders, as he'd done before. Lou Morello advised him not to report to Bridgeport. Thus, he was suspended from the team, just formality. They're waiting around for a few months. He still hasn't got any bids for, to get him. He was put on waivers, too, so no teams claimed him for free. He reached out to Bridgeport, which is their AHL affiliate. He wanted to play. He was just sitting around. They got approval from the Islanders, so he's back with them. His first game, he scored an assist, and I really hope he took his time to just kind of evaluated his attitude, and he had to change his up mentality, because he has a lot of potential. And I hate to see a player with that much potential waste their talent because they're just stubborn. And so hopefully he gets up with Bridgeport, he lights it up, and he either finds a trade partner. I would suggest a trade partner, because I think his time is done at the Islanders, but I wish him all the best. One more thing about the Islanders, I think it was funny. Trotz, their head coach, got really upset against Nashville's coach. They were winning 8-3 in the game a few weeks ago, and then I guess Nashville put their top power play line against the Islanders, and Trotz got upset, said he wants to talk to him come summer because that was wrong, blah, blah, blah. But you know what? You're in the professional hockey league, and you don't stop playing until that 60 minutes is up. If you have such an issue with that, maybe you should talk to your team about playing better and not giving up 8 goals and being down that far. So, okay, a lot of news. All-Stars. The All-Star game's coming up, and the captains were voted. We have, for the Pacific Division, Connor McDavid. The Central Division, Nathan McKinnon. The Atlantic Division, David Pastrnak. And the Metropolitan Division, Alexander Ovechkin. I think all of them were pretty much guaranteed a spot. McDavid's been playing lights out. He's been tearing it up. He has 61 points in the 39 games he's played. McDavid's has been lights out for Colorado and been arguably one of the top 5 the best players in the National Hockey League. He has 53 points in 36 games. Alexander Ovechkin, of course he's going to be in there. He only has 35 points, but he has 37 goals, and he's always fun to watch. He didn't play last season. He chose not to, but I mean, this season he hasn't indicated that he wasn't going to play. A big surprise, and I think much deserved, was David Pastrnak from the Boston Bruins, 51 points in 37 games. I think this kid's been playing lights out. He's been playing some great hockey. I guess he's really fashionable too, some of the stuff he wears. This is going to be his second All-Star Game appearance, and this is his first time as a captain, so really congratulations to him, and I wish him all the best. Moving forward, I want to just talk about Arizona Coyotes. Taylor Hall and his agent came out saying that he's open It's an absolute possibility of maybe re-signing with the Coyotes. The agent thinks that he'll like and adapt to living with life in Arizona and the team. And breaking news, since we started recording this only about an hour ago, Jeremy Roenick has been suspended indefinitely from NBC for making some comments that he made on the Spit and Chicklets podcast. If you guys haven't listened to Spit and Chicklets, they're a podcast at Biz Nasty, Paul Bissonnette, Mike Grinelli, R.A., and Ryan Whitney, former Ducks player. They're known for pretty much just having zero filters, talking just whatever they want to talk about. They talk about hockey. There's no filter on there. He went on the show. He said some comments about, a fellow analyst that he shares with, talking about, I guess, I'll say it. They were on vacation with another analyst, and some guy came up to them apparently, and he implied that they were all going to go to bed together with his wife. And then he talks about Patrick Sharp being a beautiful person, and he would give it a go if he got the opportunity. Then he implied that himself and a fellow coworker, Anson Carter, were ugly compared to Catherine, another analyst. And they suspended him indefinitely. They got upset at him before for using the F word. So I guess NBC, in my opinion, they're not really, really fundamental and factual about hockey, but I guess they're really sensitive when it comes to saying little things. My breakdown of it, he didn't say anything bad. He didn't use anything racial. He didn't use anything sexist. He was just being Jeremy Roenick. If anyone knows who he is, Google him. He's just really outspoken. I don't think he crossed any line at all. He was just being himself. I think in today's society, you have to be careful what you say, and it's just unfortunate for him because he was one of my favorite voices on NBC and one of the only ones that made sense. And now he's suspended indefinitely. And the way today's climate in society, I think, he's probably going to lose his job over some stupid comments. And that weren't even bad. I listened to the show on Monday on Spit and Chicklets, and he didn't even say anything that made cringeworthy. He was holding back. It's kind of sad today. I always use the expression soft as cotton. I always feel that people people just want to be offended by everything. It's just one of those things. It's unfortunate for him, and like I said, today's society, I guess you have to walk on eggshells.
Yeah, I mean, going on that last part, I mean, like you said, we were doing the show and preparing, and it came up last minute, the whole thing about Jeremy Roenick. I'm with you on that. I think the problem now is before you could probably say a lot more stuff that you wanted to, whether it was considered offensive or not. You could joke around a lot more, and you could do a lot of things like that. And now the pendulum has swung the other way. People are getting offended by every little thing you say. That's why I joked earlier about, calling out Lemieux for not fighting Branson because he didn't want to fight him. And there's some words I could have used, but I mean, I don't know if I say those words, then I don't know. I might be, offending a certain group of people. So if you know what I'm talking about. So, it's just unfortunate. I just feel like it's such a gray area now as far as when you're trying to say something or crack a joke. It's like you have to be careful now. You don't know who the audience is. Sometimes you say something funny and people laugh and they think it's funny. And then other times I myself have done it. I've said something and then someone got really upset at me when it was, just cracking a joke about something that, a person took offense to where most people wouldn't. So it's unfortunate for him because, he works for NBC and that's, what he was doing. I mean, you and I do this show and we do it for fun, and it's kind of a thing that we do. There's no one really to hold our feet to the fire, but I mean, we try to keep the show as professional as possible. We don't, get too crazy on here. We do cuss once in a while, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens with him. But I'm with you. I think that he may not come back, which is unfortunate because like you, Eddie, when I do watch the games on NBC, I do like him on there talking as a former player and keeping it real and diving into the way things happen on the ice, not just being, some commentator that's barely played or never played or whatnot. So it's an unfortunate situation for him. We'll have to keep an eye on it and see what happens. As far as some of the other league news you covered, with the Rangers and the Islanders, with Anderson and Hosang, I don't know what's going on with those guys. I don't know what their issues are. There aren't people that the Ducks are going to be looking at, so I wouldn't really be worrying about that at all. As far as the All-Star captains go, that wasn't really a surprise at all four of them. I'm pretty sure that was going to happen. I am interested to see what's going to happen with Taylor Hall, because all that trade went down. We talked about Arizona and now how they have a chance at being a contender in the playoffs and what they're going to do. So I hope he does re-sign just for the sake of Arizona. Otherwise, I think that trade is kind of, it's a rental and it's not really worth what they did. So another thing that we'll keep an eye on, see what happens. So that's pretty much going to wrap up the league news. We're not really going to have a show for probably a little more than a week. We've got, like I said, New Year's coming up. I'm going to be out of town. We're going to try and do one shortly after that, maybe a couple days after New Year's. So enjoy Christmas, enjoy the holidays in general. Hope you have a happy and safe one. We'll be back in a little more than a week. We appreciate the support from everybody that listens, and let's go Ducks.